Perfect. All right. Thank you so much. All right. Yeah. So today we have Dr. Phadke, and he is going to talk about healthy eating, um, especially after stroke, and the link between healthy eating and your own health and recovery. So yeah, Dr. Phadke, if you want to introduce yourself,
Sure,
you can
sure.
go ahead and start.
Sure. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak. And it's wonderful to see all of you from Utah, from Georgia, from Atlanta. Um, I used to live in Florida for 9 years. I did my PhD there. I did some postdocs there, and now I've moved north of Atlanta. I'm in Canada now, in Kingston, Ontario, 2 hours north of Syracuse, New York. I work as a manager for research now, and I'm supporting other researchers who are doing research here. But in between my PhD and my work here as a manager, I worked as a scientist in rehab. So we did a lot of studies in people who had stroke, but it was focused on movement, helping them move their arms and their fingers and their legs better. But during that time, I got interested in research in nutrition. So I started reading a lot about this. We wrote a couple of papers. We got in, I say we because these days you cannot do anything alone anymore. You're part of a team and you work together. So that's how I got in this area of nutrition. I don't have formal training in nutrition. I've done a certificate in nutrition from Cornell University, but I've done some research as well, and it's a lot of reading with groups. I've learned how to examine research in this area. And there's a lot of research, last 50, 60, 70 years of research. So when you have this significant amount of time, that's you have research accumulated over this time, you can make some strong arguments at that point. So I think we have reached that stage, and there are now many books, textbooks written on this subject. So I was part of this group, Pan American Canadian group that was involved in writing a book called Essentials of Nutrition that was just published this summer. And I co-wrote a chapter on how to prescribe and how to eat healthy food after stroke to prevent a second stroke. So this is how I got in touch with Dr. Krishnan, and she said, we have this wonderful group. We meet once a month. Would you like to come and talk? So I'm very happy to come and talk with you today. And I'm hoping that we can do something similar in Kingston as well. I'm sure there are groups already meeting, but it'll be nice to introduce the topic of nutrition and food and what people eat, what kind of food is optimal for you to prevent a second stroke from happening. So that's a little bit of my introduction. How should we proceed? Do you want me to start talking, or should we do a round of introductions from all
I'm
of
about to say,
you?
why don't we take a second and just introduce ourselves? Since you did such a great introduction to yourself. Brittany, you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, I'm Brittany. I am in the Atlanta area and I am 3 years post-stroke, and I had a stroke due to a carotid artery dissection. Which, yeah, Kelly, I feel like I remember you saying that my first time I joined this group. So that's just a little bit about me and why I'm here.
Well, we're
Thank
glad
you.
you're here.
Thank you.
In-person group, you guys want to go next?
I'm Munir Safir. I didn't have a stroke, but I have TBI, but I'm here to see what information could be applicable to me also.
Thank you. Can you say your name again, please?
My name is Munir, M-U-N-I-R.
Here. Wonderful. Thank you. Nice to meet you, Munir.
And I think you're going to find that there's a lot of information because I always tell people we present differently. Maybe we got injured or had our incident differently, but there's this thread of commonality that runs through all brain injury survivors, whether they're traumatic or acquired. So it just goes through. So who's next? Hi.
Just introduce yourself.
Okay.
My name is Jamari Porter, and this is my first Young and the Restless session.
Yay. Hi, Tamar.
Did you
We're
have any-
thrilled to see you. I was just telling everybody that it almost doesn't matter if you've had a stroke or TBI or whatever. We're just a group that understands all this commonality. We all have things that are just in common, whether it's brain fatigue or going back to work issues or walking issues or finding therapy and that kind of stuff. So we're just here for everybody. And since I'm doing all the talking, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Kelly, and I'm on the leadership team here. I was really close friends with Roger Braitwith when he started this group and met Dr. K. And when he passed, I just decided I needed to stay on and just kind of help the group make that transition. And it's been an amazing transition. I've been very proud of how well this group has stayed together and come around each other. I actually moved to Utah 18 months ago. So I went from a lifelong Georgian. I was born and raised in Georgia, never lived anywhere else except to go to Florida State, which is pretty much South Georgia. And then I decided to just take a leap of faith. I knew nobody in Utah, and I just moved, and I love it. I thought I would die the first winter, but winter ended up being my favorite season. So it's very different when you're in a state that knows what to do with snow versus a state that doesn't. But I'm a 15-year survivor, and like Brittany, I had a stroke when I was 40 from a carotid artery dissection. I have something called Eagles syndrome, and it's a genetic thing. I was born with it. I didn't know I had it, and I just up and had a stroke. And like I said, that was 15 years ago. I live alone. I can drive. My big thing for support groups is just saying, look, there is life after injury, whether it's a stroke or TBI, you still can have a full and complete life. And I'm just happy to be here. So I know we have a couple of Dr. Krishna's students here with us. You guys introduce yourself.
Sure, I can go ahead and get started. I'm Aryan. I'm a Georgia student. I'm a third-year biomedical engineering student, but I work with Dr. Krishnan, and I reached out to her this past summer because I've been doing research with people that have had survived strokes, and I thought that research was really impactful. So I reached out to her about joining and helping organize and lead this group with her. And so I've been doing that ever since this past summer.
Yeah, hi, my name is Wesley. I am a senior at Emory, and I work in Dr. Krishnan's lab. We do a lot of different types of studies. Some projects I am working on are like systematic reviews, and Dr. Krishnan over the summer told me about, or like towards the end of last school year and the summer, told me about this support group that she had, and I thought it was really amazing and really interesting, and I really wanted to be a part of it, so I have been helping with it since last summer as well.
And we are so grateful for you guys. We love having students here. Who just joined us? Who is Shy Phone 13?
That's me. Hi.
Oh, hi. We can't talk about you anymore, Dr. K. You're here. Do you want to introduce yourself? We have some new people in person.
Absolutely. Hey, everyone. Hi. Thanks for joining in person. I know Aryan is there in person, so thank you, Aryan, for being there. And I am co-leading the support group with Kelly, and I know Kelly might have introduced herself. And there was a support group member and a founder. So I started co-leading with Roger and Kelly during the pandemic, and we were in person, then we moved to a virtual format, and now we are hybrid. Thank you to physical therapy. So Nadia, thank you so much for hosting us and giving us a home for all the members who want to meet us in person. We meet monthly every third Thursday, and all the topics that we really discuss about and speakers that we get from across the globe is through the support group members. So meaning if you have, or if the members say that they are struggling with a challenge, then we brainstorm in our mini leadership meetings, and then we find speakers and members who could come and talk to us about that topic. So thank you all. And we do have our speakers lined up for the rest of the year. So please keep a lookout on our newsletter. And yeah, that's how we send most of our information, all our information through the newsletter. We could do a little better in social media updates. We are getting there. But please sign up to our newsletter. And if you are not on our newsletter, send in your emails to, if you're in person, send it to Aryan. And if you are joining us via Zoom, just put your email in chat and we can add you to the newsletter.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
so for those of you who are in person, could you tell me your email or how to spell it?
Yeah. Okay, it's Porter, Porter. Last name Jamari, Jamari, @gmail.com.
Awesome. So it's porterjamari@gmail.com.
Mine is Munir Safir, MunirSaafir @gmail.com.
So it's MunirSaafari.
No, MunirSaafir.
Mm-hmm. SAAFIR.
Correct.
Got it. At gmail.com?
Correct.
All right. Awesome.
Thank you
All right,
guys.
thank you so much.
Uh,
Yeah, and Brittany, if you would like to type yours into the chat, that's perfectly fine as well.
I
If
think
you're
I,
not.
I think you all
I have
already have it.
Brittany's. Yeah, because she's
All
on
right.
the email list. So, and
Awesome.
I do send out 2 emails a month. One's just a
Mhm.
newsletter and the other one's a reminder, but it's always blind copied. So you're not getting spammed. Your email's not getting shared with a bunch of people. So we do try to make sure we take that privacy very seriously, but it also has our contact information on it if you ever need to reach out to any of us. So before we get started, since our guest speaker has done a wonderful job starting our introductions, I just want to remind you guys to check the BIAG, the Brain Injury Association of Georgia website. Registration for camp is now open. We do a camp for adults with a brain injury, be it traumatic or acquired. Acquired just means you had a stroke or a disease. It's October 4th, 5th, and 6th, which is a Friday night, all day Saturday, and Sunday. Come back Sunday night. It's at Camp Twin Lakes in YnR, Georgia. And it's a great deal of fun. I know there's a couple of our support group members that are going. Ruben's going, Jason's going. It's just gonna be a lot of fun. I'd go if I was in the state, but it's on biaga.org, or I will send out an email that just reminds people and you guys will get it. So, all right. Well, thank you, everyone. So now we're on with the main event.
Do you want me to speak next?
Yeah, please. Sorry.
All right. So I'm very happy to come here and do this, and congratulations to you for running this group and participating in this group successfully over several years now. One thing that we are all working hard towards in science is how do you take the scientific data that you publish in research articles, how do you take that and bring it to the people who will experience, for example, in this case, stroke? How do you traverse that path from a scientific, technical language publication and bring that information to the people who it affects? So these kind of activities are really helpful in bridging that gap. So today I'm going to make an effort not to use scientific jargon or not to use technical terms. In fact, it'll be like a conversation today. So I want to start off by saying that it's so wonderful that we have people of different races here today. We have the black race, we have the brown race represented, the white race, and also from China, the Asian race. So we have this wonderful group of people that are coming together. And I feel in the world, we need more of these spaces that bring peace, because I think the more people work together, it becomes a source of peace. And the reason I want to talk about peace is because in our body, there are two processes happening at once. There's a process of something called as catabolism. I told you I'm not going to use technical terms. There's a process of breaking things down, because during the day we walk, we use our body in different ways, our mind in different ways, and it gets hurt. So for example, with walking, when you walk or climb stairs or climb down the stairs, your muscle fibers actually tear. They're small tears that are happening. So that's one process of breaking down. But when we rest, especially in the night, there's the healing process that happens, because our body puts itself together. So our body has a way and a mechanism to heal itself. I mean, we cannot heal beyond a certain point. If the injury is too big, then you cannot heal. But our body, generally speaking, has a way to heal itself. So we have to think of these two processes when we think about anything. And peace of mind is, I think, important for that healing process to happen. Because when you are stressed, it actually tells our body, tells our cells in the body, tells our enzymes in the body to do things differently. So it's a thought that's you can think of peace, but it has a cellular effect on our cells. So it has a real effect on our body. So it's important to manage stress in different ways. Some people use meditation, conversations, walks, being in nature, and there's so many ways to do that. So that's one approach. The other approach is quality of sleep is important. Sleep is as well important. So these are the two balances that are happening in the body: breaking down and putting itself together. So today we are going to focus on one aspect that helps us put our body together, and that's nutrition. But I just wanted to say that it's not the only thing, and there are many other factors. There you can boil them down to 6 factors that promote health. One is not eating, not smoking, or not drinking alcohol too much. That's one thing. Second is eating well, eating nutritious food. 3 is having social connections with people, and this group is a good demonstration of that, having social connections. 4 is some sort of physical activity, some sort of exercise that helps you maintain yourself. And 5th or 6th, I think, is meditation, spending some time and reflecting. Maybe you close your eyes and reflect on your own, or you do it in a group, or you do some yoga with others. So those are the 5 principles. But today we'll just talk about nutrition or food. There's a very famous author in the US who wrote a nice cookbook, and he sort of summarized in 7 words how we should eat. And I don't know the title of his book. His name is Michael Pollan, and these are the 7 words from his book. He says, eat food, mostly plants. Eat food, mostly plants, not too much. 7 words. So let's break it down. He says, eat food. So why is it so important to say eat food? Because we've always had food, but in the last 50, maybe 70 or 100 years, we have started to introduce new types of foods, engineered foods, foods that are engineered as a product so that it sells, so that you come back to eat it more and more. So there's that element which has changed. They add many different ingredients. Just like you would create a product that has got many chemicals, they create engineered food as well. So that's why it's important to think of food as something that is natural. Like for example, an apple is a fruit. But apple juice is something different, right? It's gone through many different processes. Not the juice you make at home, but the juice that you get in the store. It's gone through many different processes before it comes into that. And now at that point, it's sugar and water, and maybe some vitamins that were added in there. But it's very different than eating apples. So that's something that is helpful for us to consider when we are thinking about what we should eat. We should eat food that's whole, It can be processed minimally, maybe processed by you, or processed by a farmer. You can't eat the grain as it is. It has to be shelled, it has to be flattened or rolled, washed, and so on. In the case of rice, I come from India where we eat rice, and the rice has to go through many different processes. When I was young, I used to go visit an aunt of mine who was a farmer. Her husband was a farmer. And there, the rice would always taste weird. And as a kid, I would say, Mom, I don't like the rice. It tastes weird. Mom says, shh, eat. This is what they made, and we should eat. And years later, I realized that that is actually healthy rice. It's brown rice. It's not processed. It comes from the field. Processing is fine. It helps increase the shelf life of food, but you lose a lot of minerals, a lot of fiber in the process. So I try to eat food. That's something I tell people. Don't worry about being a vegan or being a omnivore or somewhere along the line in between. Keto. There are so many ways. We have figured ways to divide ourselves. We said, okay, either you're this or you're that. So I don't go into all that. We just eat food. Food that's probably another element to it is food um, that is prepared, that is grown in a nice way. So a lot of food sometimes has gone through pesticides. A lot of pesticides have been used, and certain foods don't do very well with that, and they harm us. So it's nice to eat, if possible, organic, if possible, whole food. But food is really the key. So that's the first two letters, eat food. Then he says, um, not eat food, mostly plants. So he says mostly plants. Again, brings us back to the original argument. Why does he say mostly plants? And I want to divide that argument into anatomical reasons and then scientific reasons. So anatomical reasons is if you look at our teeth and compare them with the teeth of a dog or a fox or a cat or a lion, our teeth are very different. The teeth of a dog, for example, are all sharp. They're all sharp. They're pointing down, whereas our teeth are not sharp. We only have two teeth that are probably sharp, the two incisors. The rest of them are flat. And they're flat and thick. So they're really designed to be like a mill to grind the grains, to grind things. So that's an anatomical reason for us to think about mostly plants. The other reason is our stomach, the connection between our bums and our mouths. That whole structure is very long. The intestines are very long. So if you think about why are they so long? Because it allows the plant food to go slowly and get absorbed. Whereas cats or omnivores, animals that eat meat, their intestines are short because meat cannot stay too long because they don't cook their meat. They eat it directly, the animals. They cannot stay too long in the gut. It has to pass through quickly. So that's that's the anatomical side. When it comes to the physiological side, lots of studies have shown that food that's mostly plants is actually less inflammatory. So inflammatory means something that produces more breaking down of things. So if you hurt your knee, it causes pain. That's a sign of inflammation. If you get sick after you have an infection, or if you had cold, your body becomes hot. It becomes hot because it's trying to make sure that the virus or the bacteria that's in you, it doesn't replicate very fast. So your body has a chance to fight it. So inflammation is something that they've shown in studies. It increases when you eat processed food or processed meats or certain kinds of meats, especially if you eat a lot of meat every single meal, it tends to increase your inflammation. Nothing's going to happen if you eat one meal that has meat in it. But if you eat one meal of processed meat, it shows that it goes up, inflammation goes up. So there's another reason why it should be mostly plants. But meat is good for you too. There are healthy meats that, I'm not talking about processed meats that have all kinds of chemicals in them, but let's say a farm-raised meat of any kind. You have it, it's good for you. Have some farm eggs. If you enjoy that, you can eat that, but make sure you're not eating that for every meal. So instead of, especially when somebody's used to eating meat every single meal, I tend to say that, just eat more vegetables because our stomach is only so much room in it. So if you eat more vegetables, more whole grains, there won't be enough room for meat. And meat doesn't fill your stomach. Meat is breaks down into protein and fat and doesn't fill our stomach very much, especially if we chew. So that's the second thing. Eat healthy, mostly plants. And the last thing he says is not too much. Now, this is something that has started to become more prominent in research studies, and they use the term intermittent fasting or fasting. So, all religions have this element of fasting. So if you think about it, for thousands of years, humanity has been fasting, and you wonder, what the impact has been on our health. So they've started to look at it scientifically. And I think most studies they've shown is that if you fast a certain period of time, it alters our body's ability to be able to heal itself. So there are certain things that happen, and people call it keto diet, people call it overnight fasting. But the truth is, all of us fast. In the night, we don't eat, and we shouldn't eat. It's better if you eat an early dinner and then don't eat anything overnight. And in the morning, you can then have a breakfast. That way, our body has had a chance to heal itself. Now, not eating too much is another important thing, because if you fill your stomach too much, then our stomach stretches. It stretches, and then it becomes bigger. The next time you eat, you're not going to be full because your stomach's bigger. You need more. So you continue to eat more, it starts to get bigger. On the other hand, if you eat little less, it starts to shrink. You eat even little less, it starts to shrink. And the other important thing is the dinner. If you eat a light dinner, it allows our body to start its healing process in the night. So if you can start to do that, that's helpful. So that's the third thing he said, is not too much. So in those 7 letters, he really encapsulated everything that we are seeing in research. Now, before we started, I said one thing, that research is, a set of tests that you do. Now, depending on how you do the tests, you can get the results that you want. So, and there are good studies and bad studies, well done studies, poorly done studies. But so you'll see, if someone says, oh, actually coffee is good for you, or alcohol is good for you, or meat is good for you, or broccoli is good for you, we should try and avoid one study like that. We should not look at one study, but we should look at what is the scientific term is what is the overwhelming weight of evidence, meaning in the last 50 years, what are the majority of the studies telling you about what kind of food is good for you. And this is what Michael Pollan, what he's saying is that's exactly what research studies are showing, that you should eat mostly plants and mostly whole foods that are not processed. You should avoid drinking sugary drinks, and those are the key things that research studies have shown as well. So that's the overwhelming evidence in terms of research as well. So now we come down to the last question. Last thing I was going to share with you is, how do we then eat better? What are some factors that affect it? Well, one thing for sure is that you need to have somebody who's with you doing this if you're trying to change your diet. You also need to make sure that you're talking to your nurse or your physician, so that especially if you're taking medications, that they're aware that you're changing something, because food interacts with medicine. And you know the reason why, because I told you, when we eat foods, it changes how our body heals itself or takes care of itself. If there's a medication that's designed to do something in your body, if you're changing some things, the medicine will work more or will work less. So it's important to connect with your pharmacist, nurse, physician, whoever is your caretaker, to explain to them that I'm doing this. So that's the first step. Second is, you need somebody to do it with you. And the third thing is, when you're stressed, we tend to go for comfort foods, because what happens is, when you eat something that's sugary or sweet or something that has a lot of fat in it, for example, chicken or chips, things like that, it releases a hormone in our brain called dopamine. So when that hormone is released, it makes you temporarily happy, and then it goes away. So when you feel, oh, I need something, I need this, the craving is real, you say to yourself, oh, I'm just looking for that hit, hormone hit. I'll try to find it in another way. Maybe I'll go for a walk. Maybe I'll do some breathing. Maybe I'll do some meditation. Maybe I'll go visit a friend and have a conversation with them. Because all of these things, they actually stimulate dopamine in smaller levels when you have conversations When you chat with someone, when you're happy, when you listen to a nice joke, it releases dopamine in our body and it makes you happy. So there are other ways of being happy. And the third thing I wanted to share is when you are changing your habits, introducing foods, there's this element of eating together. When you're eating alone, you don't really feel motivated to, do things differently. And you don't feel motivated to cook either. So it's nice to be together with someone, cook together, but it's also important to learn how to cook and what ingredients you need. So it's important to make a trip. First of all, look at a recipe book or look at a video on YouTube about how somebody makes a dish. That's what I did. I'm making some cauliflower and some rice, biryani it's called. So I looked at the recipe. Now I'm going to lay out all the ingredients that I need. My wife has already chopped the cauliflower, onions, tomatoes, and peas. So it's already, rice has been soaked in water. So it'll just take me 20 minutes because the preparation has been done. So it's helpful to do the preparation, find out what the recipe is. And my wife actually gets the food for the whole week. She knows what she's going to cook every day and she gets those ingredients. So she knows that there's good food at hand in the fridge. So that way you're not tempted to reach for something that you don't want to eat, but you feel like you have no choice. So along those lines, it's helpful to cook with others and eat food with others and invite people to eat food with you or go visit someone to eat. That's something that I think really helps. So even I was sharing earlier, there's a wonderful group in Kingston, Ontario. They have a group of people who have some sort of mental mental illness, and because of that mental illness, there's some stigma associated with it. So this research study is looking at how to overcome that stigma, and they have a facilitator, and they bring that group together. By the way, they got a $3 million grant from the government to do this study. So it's a 6-week program. Once a week, they come together, and the peer support group with the facilitator who helps them to overcome their stigma. So there's a whole program around that. But the fun part is that they come and they go to there's a food kitchen that they go to, and there's a chef there who teaches them how to cook a dish. So they cook the meal together, and while the meal is cooking, they have their support group. At the end of it, they eat the meal together, and they do this for 6 weeks. So I was sharing earlier how this group was so happy. They found so immense benefit from that group that after the program was over, they decided that they wanted to continue this practice. So they continued to meet in someone's home. They would make food together, interact, and so on. So I want to suggest this idea to your group as well, to consider doing something like this once in a while, or separate from this group, where people come together, learn how to cook. Because like any other skill, it's difficult to suddenly start cooking, with broccoli, or you don't know how much time cauliflower takes, or how to cook a rice, or how to make bread. These things, it's helpful to have somebody who can teach you, and it's also joyful to work with other people. And for those who are in the university, it's also helpful to put some scientific rigor to something like that, to do some tests before and after, to apply a systematic approach to this. So that's just my suggestion to you. And I'll pause here.